the point of today is giving you the tools, ideas, places to go look for content and how to write content for the web. There's a really the important thing to keep in mind when you're writing content for the web is you're writing it for the person reading it. You're not writing it for yourself. You're not writing it for other real estate agents. You're not writing it for other professionals. You're writing it for the person reading your website. So, as best you can, you always want to write to and use the words you. If you are looking to buy a house, if you are listing your house, if you're trying to qualify for a mortgage, if you are staging your house to sell, you want to use the word you as much as you can. I think one of the worst things that I think that's out on the web is when you see articles that are written to somebody else, like home buyers in general. Home buyers are, or home sellers are, people trying to qualify, where it's not personal to the person reading your content. So keep that in mind as you're writing. It makes it so that you can have a conversation with the person that you're writing to. I mean, it's a lot of how I sit down and write content. I look at my screen and I tap out a conversation I'm going to have with the person in front of me, which is my screen, which is the reader. So it's personable. It's I would keep it interesting and fun. If you can, very informative, the better. Anytime you can add your opinion is a good idea. Everybody, well, not everybody, but you know how to qualify for a house, or you might know the steps to staging a house or something, but add in your personal flair about it. Everybody on this call has an opinion. We're human beings. We have opinions about the way somebody walks down the street. They're walking too fast. They're walking with their head. They're walking with their arms. They shouldn't use their arms, etc. And you guys are, all experienced real estate professionals. You have lots of experiences to draw from. You have lots of opinions about how things are done, should be done, shouldn't be done, etc. So feel free to express that in your content on your website. It's very important that you do, because it lets the reader sort of get a personal feel for who you are and what your company's about. The first shot they have is what they see in content on your site when they get to your site. And if it's boring, bland, chances are they're not going to stick around too long. Once they get past the visual graphics, they start reading stuff, and it's like, this is not, you're not going to connect too well if it's just straight vanilla writing. So, one of the complaints we hear with real estate agents, well, actually, I'm going to back that up, not just real estate agents, a lot of website owners in general. One of the complaints we hear right off the bat is, I don't have time to write, or I don't know what to write about, or I don't want people reading what I'm writing, or I'm afraid to put my word out there and have people read it. And our take on that is, okay, we get it, and do it anyway. Because what you tap out there and what you publish, somebody is interested in reading. We're curious people, and the more you put out there, the more eyeballs that want to work with you are going to hit your site once you're found in the search engines. There's really a direct correlation between a website performance in the search engines and the amount of content you publish on it. If you don't publish content, you're not going to get found. We built a website for a client about 18 months ago, and her site's a massive site. And what we found was she wasn't doing, we heard some scuttlebutt that she wasn't happy with her site. And what we discovered in the process was that she wasn't doing anything with her site. We weren't managing it. We just built it and turned it over, and she hosted it somewhere else. And what we found out was she wasn't touching her website. She just turned it on and expected it to work. And that's not the web game that we're in anymore. 5 to 10 years ago, yeah, you could turn on a site, stuff keywords on it, put some content on it, and leave it alone, and chances are you got found. Nowadays, if you're not actively engaged in it in some way, shape, or form, you're not going to get the traffic that you want, and it's just going to be another, postcard online. So the point of this particular session that we're doing today is to talk about, where to get ideas to write about, what to write about, how to write about, etc. I use Google Alerts, and what I've set up is in my Outlook box, I get Google Alerts on web content that I'm interested in seeing, and I've been keeping track of since February 25th. I've had 3,300 Google Alerts come into my inbox, and I have a rule set up so that they just bounce into here, and I only see them when I want to. But I have 3,300 notifications from Google about different types of topics that I'm interested in paying attention to, that I write about for clients that we do work for. So, for example, I would look at this and go, what's the advantage of a VA loan? So I would look at this and I'd click it and go, okay, is there anything here that, by the way, I clicked it and it's, there it is. Okay, there it is. So I would read this and go, I have an opinion about something that's being said. And that's something that I would write about in an article. These loans require at least 3% down. They also have mortgage insurance. VA loans don't have mortgage insurance. So, I would read through this. If there was something interesting for me to write about or add to or take away from, I would craft an article about this and go from there to post on a site somewhere. Now, another piece of advice is, I've seen it a lot where, I really like this article, and there's people, I haven't seen it lately, but there's been some trainers in the area that have been teaching people just to copy content and use content in a copied fashion. It's absolutely not a good idea to do that. If you're going to copy somebody's article, because, this guy's article about VA loans, pretty standard vanilla stuff. But you notice that the biggest advantage is being you don't have to, meaning you could buy an urban, rural, or accepting trailer park. So this guy's doing a decent job of writing to the person reading, but he's also still he's not really talking to me. He's not really talking to me, but he is using the word you. He's, he hasn't brought me into the conversation, to get engaged in what he's talking about. But if I wanted to take his content, for example, I would copy it, and I use a text editor. I use something called TextPad. You don't have to use it. I don't recommend that you use Word, because Word can add code into your content as you cut and paste it into WordPress. But I use a plain text editor that, Notepad's even not a bad way to go, which is a resident on most Microsoft PCs. But I would put this guy's content in here, and then I would start looking at, what are the advantages? And I'd start rewriting this guy's information, because there's nothing on here that is brand new or breaking news. It's just regurgitation of what's already out there. So there's nothing really to cite this guy on, or to refer to him or give him a link or anything like that. I would rewrite this. It's a sufficient number of words. The number of words in an article you want to shoot for is about 350 to, say, 600. If you go above 600 words, you want to look hard at what you're writing about. And why I say that is Google, the way they rank, and I'm using Google loosely for all the search engines, but the way Google indexes pages on the internet is that they get a good idea about what a page is about after about the first 250 to 350 words, if you're doing your job on the page. So every page basically should cover one piece of idea, or one piece of content. It doesn't help to go on and 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 write this big, long 1,700 word blog post or article or page, because most likely after about 300 or 400 words, you've made your point with what you're writing about. Or if you haven't made it, you should train yourself to make your point in relatively short but sweet blog posts. One, it will save you time. It'll keep you from writing for hours and hours and hours, which I understand, nobody on this call, not even myself, has time to just sit down and write for hours and hours and hours. So the idea is keep your blog posts short, somewhere around 350 words, and keep your points to 1 to 2 significant points per post. I like to try to keep it to 1. Sometimes it's necessary to make 2. If you get to where you're writing a long article and you look through it and you have 3-4 points to make, cut it down into thirds, and then link back and forth if you think that it's important to see each. If it's important to read all the content in that blog post together, then link it together with a series of links versus having it all in one blog post. It's more content for your site. You can do things like stay tuned for part 2, to increase your reader base coming back to your site. Stay tuned for part 3. You could name it, staging your house part 1, staging your house part 2, staging your house part 3, something like that. Or, the short sale process. Write a series of articles about short selling a house in the process. Take a user or an experience you've had selling a short sale. If you've gone through the whole process, write about it from start to finish.